welcome to the Indigenous Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have Rhonda Lane with me. She's a silversmith, an artist, and also a podcaster. Her business is called Peace by Lane. So if you could just introduce yourself, Rhonda, and then we'll just get into the conversation from there.
Yeah, so yat eish aya Rhonda Lane yin shia tini aya na shlido zet lani e bashish chin na hobani e dash che adult senabit ni e dashanal I used den na sha e beg el gaiden aya na shado kintkahi aya cash hasin zachinkat. So hello, my name is Rhonda Lane, obviously. And I am of the Foot Trails people, born for the Mountain Cove people. And my maternal grandfathers are the Gray Streak Ends, and the Sleep Rock people are my paternal grandfathers. I originally come from a community called Lake Valley, New Mexico. Typically, depending on who you talk to, that gets confused with some folks closer to Socorro. Apparently, there's another place called Lake Valley, but I'm from the Eastern Agency, closer to Crown Point, and I reside here in the Four Corners.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. As we get started, I think my first question is like, what led you to start your business? Like, what is your business, first of all, and kind of what was that journey leading up to starting it?
Wow. It's different being on this hot seat, but first of all, Peace by Lane is primarily a silversmithing business. I decided to take back silversmithing after being in the corporate world for, maybe about 20 years or so. And initially, I had started silversmithing. I learned silversmithing in few classes in high school, and left it on a back burner. Went to school, went to college, and then just started working. And then most recently, in about October of 2023 specifically, I decided, well, it was probably May of 23, I decided to start silversmithing again. It was just something that I've always been drawn to do. And when I go shopping, I was a big jewelry shopper myself. And I'm like, well, I don't like this. I wish they could do this. You kind of have your wishes. And so I was like, well, I'll just start making some jewelry and it'll just be something I can do. And it was more of just an interest in art. And so I started silversmithing in May. And then by October of 23, after meeting an organization called West here in Farmington with the Women's Business Center at San Juan College, I've kind of, got the idea, what if I can start a business? What if it works? What if it doesn't? All of the what ifs kind of things. And I'm one of those that if I set my sight on something, I pretty much follow through. But prior to that, I have obviously, like I said, I've gone to college and done all of that. So I've primarily worked in the oil and gas industry. And then my world was pretty much data, software, analytics is what I dabbled in quite a bit. But when it came to starting a business, you kind of think, what are the basic things to start a business? And everybody always thinks LLC. So I fought that, and I'm like, I don't want to get that far in advance. So my thing was just, what if I can turn this into a business? What if I can actually make it happen? But I was also drawn to, my ultimate vision was to finding a way to give access to, like, say, my mother's generation who don't dabble with software, don't dabble with social media. I wanted to build a platform for them to be able to get their stuff sold online, or even, because I think there's a lot of things but that was my main vision, was to build something that I can start with myself, figure out how it works, how is it done. And so with that in mind, I'm like, let's start with Etsy. So I started an Etsy account, and then I, filled out everything you need to do and had that running. And then, of course, that gravitated towards having a website. So all of that is very technical, and but fortunately enough, I love playing with data and software. How do things link together? So I've been able to figure out getting my Etsy linked to my website, having that also linked to my Square account. So when I do sell at markets, everything kind of works together. So that's kind of been my driving force behind starting a jewelry business. Now, you would think, why would you want to start a jewelry business? So my main vision, or my main, I don't know if you call it a mission statement or what, but my main goal was to bring art to everyday life. And that's where I always say we're adding a touch of beauty and inspiration to your everyday life. My main slogan is, to me, is this is where beauty meets inspiration with any pieces that I've made. Um, and then also with creating art and creating jewelry. The few pieces that I made at the beginning, fortunately enough, I had a lot of friends and family that have, purchased pieces just to get me started, for them to have, or even I've given some away. And just to see their face, or their excitement and their feelings or emotions behind receiving such an item, you know, that meant the world to me. So I was like, I kind of want to do this. I want to bring art to everyday life, and why not do it through jewelry, and why not build towards a greater vision, like I said, to building a platform. I'm still There's still some life events that are happening. I have little ones that I still have to tend to, and so it's going to probably be a slow process, but I still have that end goal, or that end desire, to get there.
What would you say some of the challenges have been that you've been facing in this first 2 years of starting your business?
Oh, I feel like my main challenges is there's not enough time in the day. Um, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, as a dreamer of what if we could build a platform as such. I mean, I've heard of it being done in other communities. So I'm like, well, it's just something we can do together. But um, having to schedule out a lot of these things has become very, oh my gosh, I don't want to say time consuming, but you really have to have a schedule. And then, of course, social media is driving everything these days. You have to kind of have that on schedule. I'm kind of a little bit right now, like, I don't want to say a hiatus from social media, but we're in January now. So for the past 4 months, I was pushing a lot. I was pushing, this is what I have available. This is what I've made. This is what we've created. Um, Keeping up with social media is really time consuming. And so it's just like not enough time in the day. The other thing that initially what I found was an issue, well, not an issue, but it was hard to find like a network where right now, like an entrepreneur, you feel like you're alone in this world trying to figure this out. It was kind of a little bit hard to find, let's just say, another group of women that had the same things in mind that they wanted to push towards. Um, and that's what drew me to reaching out to one of the seminars that Wes had put on. I was like, networking event. Let's just think of it as that. Let's just see what other people think. I mean, you never know what you might learn if you walk into a room. Um, Even me taking that one step by attending one class or one seminar has opened up the doors within the past few years for me. That's how I met, UNM Rainforest. I met Zach. I've met Heather, with from Dulce. There's a lot of other folks I've met, and then through Wes, you meet other folks outside of the Farmington area. I mean, we've gone as far as Monument Valley, and it's so interesting to hear the stories of how they want to start a business, but they don't know how to maneuver things. Um, so I think that was another big issue, is just having a core networking group of, I hate to say just women, but even I've met a few gentlemen that have, their businesses as well. So I feel like that's one of the things that's pretty big. And so I push that quite a bit. in building relationships, networking, even if it's just handing out a business card and saying, hey, I dabble in this. What do you dabble in? I actually met an accountant through that same class, and he was like, here's some ideas on how you can think about doing your accounting, how you can think about different softwares to do your accounting and such. So it just kind of gives you ideas. And then that also led to the podcasting. Um, I wanted to shed light on, more of artists that you don't think about, more artists that we don't really know much about, but yet they're also trying to be entrepreneurs, or they are entrepreneurs. It's just, like I said, a lot of us still have full-time jobs on the side, and everybody does entrepreneurship on the side as well. So that kind of led the whole networking building, the relationship building. That's what led me to go ahead and kick off my Piece by Lane podcast. I was very interested in building a community that I always say someone, somewhere, somehow will hear a little piece of something that you're talking about, and it can change their lives, or it can change their course of life, or change their thought on where they're at. So that's kind of where the issues that I found that were the biggest was probably the networking and just finding a place I think it was also a support group, sort of, more encouragement. So that's kind of what I found the biggest issue in starting this out.
And you've kind of already spoken to this, but would you say like one way you kind of overcame that challenge was reaching out to West, or are there other ways that you've been um overcoming those challenges of feeling alone? Like what are some things that have helped you build that community, and I guess ideas that other entrepreneurs can think of if they're in that place where they're kind of feeling alone, or like they need community of
Yeah.
entrepreneurs?
Um, it's interesting having spent a few months with West, but the main thing is there are a lot of events, there are a lot of activities that actually do happen, that actually do take place. But I think in order to overcome that, it's just a matter of getting out there. Like for me, I'm pretty much not, I mean, I say I'm pretty much like an introverted person, but what really drove me to go ahead and see what else is out there, see what else might be possible, was just I had the mindset of, I have to figure out how I'm going to keep evolving. How am I going to keep changing things? Well, the only way to do that was to head on face, or go head on into facing everything that I felt uncomfortable with. And that was really pushing myself to go and meet different people, just take part of different events. And in doing that, like I said, it's opened so many opportunities. I was actually asked to be like guest. I even volunteered and said, okay, I'll be guest speakers here and there. And then I started getting invited to do some presentations here locally with like the college. And then I just being able to just go out and just kind of, I don't want to say force yourself, but start to build yourself into these relationships, start to find these networking events, even if it's at a market. Let's say we decide to go sell at a little market, and you think, oh, this isn't really going to get anywhere. But meeting the people, the vendors there, that's a networking event itself. You get to learn about um, what different vendors do, how they do their setups. For example, oh my God, my very first holiday market was in 23, and I was scared. I was like, I don't even think my booth is set up right. I don't even think I knew, like, I've had experience with my mom, who used to sell quite a bit of jewelry and her sewing stuff and crocheting stuff. So I knew I needed cash. I needed a POS system, just kind of the basic things. And I just had a basic booth. And so when you get to talk to your neighbors, they're like, hey, next time you should, make your table a little higher, or change your style of how you might set things up, or if you need a break between whatever, we can help you. They're actually there, and they will actually share some advice. It might not be something you might want to hear, but it's always a piece of something you've learned.
That's awesome. Just building that community and, like you said, getting out of your comfort zone, I think is hard for many of us, myself included, but it's really what helps, especially when you're an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
You have to get out of your comfort zone even to just take on that title of entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I think it's a very courageous thing to do. Um, Kind of speaking to that, how would you say entrepreneurship and starting and owning your own business has impacted your life, whether it's positives or negatives? How has it impacted your life the past 2 years?
Oh my goodness. More so on the positive side. Again, I've built a lot of relationships. I've been able to, for me to do this type of art, more silversmithing, I was able to kind of share my take on art. What I saw in maybe a ring, a bracelet, or a set of earrings, I was it you kind of use I've you kind of use a different part of your brain when it comes to art. Before that, all I've done, like I said, was data analytics, software, and understanding those processes. And when you flip the switch and you decide to do art, for me, it was more I don't want to say it was a relief, but it was a calming sensation. You felt at ease, and you create on your terms. So I got to definitely get to see the different side of my creativity. I was able to use that more. I've always done some sort of art, even though I was like in school or whatever. I always sketched a lot. I did a lot of beadwork. I just kind of dabbled in a lot of different things. But this time I'm like full blown, okay, artist mode. Let's see what you can create. And I love sharing the pieces. I love what I like to make. And I think that was more of a positive sensation. For me, don't get me wrong, I still do oil and gas as we speak. I still have a part-time job, and I still handle that. But when you get into the studio, it's completely different. It's your world, and everything is on your terms. As far as negative for me, I felt like entrepreneurship or having my own business is kind of taking a little bit away from my family a little bit. Because say for instance at the markets, I have to schedule those in, and then I have to find someone to help me with my kids. So it's a lot of scheduling. Fortunately enough, like my husband, he kind of either can go with me or he'll stay behind and watch the kids. And that's just something that, you kind of have to figure out your give and take on how much time you're going to be away from your kids, how much time you're going to be with them. So I pretty much try to still treat my days as a work day from like 8 to 3. So I don't know if it's a negative thing, but I have a schedule I have to follow. I do this from this time, do this time. And so um I think that's just the give and take. And then of course you have to still find time for like self-care. Because it can get kind of stressful, especially if you're trying to launch, say, a website and get everything built, everything tied, and take photos and stuff. You get overwhelmed. So you kind of have to take a back seat and just kind of, digress and take time for yourself.
Yeah, I think I like, in my opinion, anyways, I think the fact that you're still scheduling things is actually going to make you more successful. Because I think if you're building your own thing and you don't have that type of structure,
Mm.
then you won't like grow or as much as like when you kind of still plan things out. I guess some people might think like, oh, entrepreneurship, I can do whatever I want whenever I want. And it's like, no, that's not how it is.
So I went to high school, and the high school I went to, they physically give you a planner, an academic calendar planner. And I've used that all through high school, and just out of habit, probably I've continued to use it through college. And it, like I said, it was just a habit. I have to have a planner every year. And if you record, I mean, all the things that you work on and whatnot, that actually can turn out to be like, if you can't remember what you purchased at some point, it'll probably be at your planner. I'm one of those that kind of writes everything that I've done. What did we do that day? Did we go make a run to the supply store? I have that all recorded. So when it comes time to also look at your, the books you can keep taking care of, they coincide together. Sometimes I'll forget about, like, the instance I made a trip to Santa Fe. I didn't put it in my planner, but I had a receipt for Santa Fe, and I'm like, what happened? And so it's just they kind of work together for me. So it's just been a habit since, for a long, long time, to have a planner.
That's a good system, or like, I think, advice, especially for entrepreneurs, when you can start writing off certain things like on your taxes, keeping track of everything. That I think is a good strategy, to like write it all down somewhere. My husband, he's a photographer. He's starting his own photography business, and I tell him, keep track of this, keep track of this, and he doesn't. So then we have to like go back and we're like, okay, what did you do this day? And so it's just better to do it like kind of how you do it with your planner. I think that's um very practical advice for anyone listening.
Certainly,
How,
I'm sorry, certainly,
no, go
like,
ahead.
you have the you have the calendar on your phone, and I mean, everybody's glued to their phones, right? And you think it would be easy to just to record, but it's actually, I lean more towards the handwritten stuff than my phone. The bigger, like, scheduling in regard to, like, having a job, doing West events, doing all these other events. Now, I definitely have those, like, in my phone, and half the time I'm like, I don't have time for this. I can't, I don't, it's not going to work in my schedule. So that's more of like just on the fly type thing. But yeah, I kind of try to work the two, but I prefer the handwritten stuff.
I do too. Um, so in the 2 years that you've been like starting your business, working with West, um, what would you say, like, whether it's the city of Farmington, the state of New Mexico, or like even the tribe, what have they been doing well to support you? And like, what do you think would be some things that would help better support entrepreneurs that like the state or resource organizations could do?
That's a big question. Uh, I so I guess here's a comparison. When you take a look at the community of Santa Fe, now, I was there. We were invited to be a part of an event for Kinship. Kinship was hosting emerging artists to do their little market. It was not part of the actual Indian market. It was kind of separate by the railway. So, but when you take a look at the community of Santa Fe and how they've kind of built different events, they've built venues. The railway is actually has a venue where the local farmer markets, or people that have items that they handmade, they have that kind of venue set up, and that's what it's built for. It's built for a lot of entrepreneurs, and for them to get out to meet people, get out to sell. And the other great thing about the railway there is, literally the railway comes to that exact spot. So you have people coming in through the train from Albuquerque to Santa Fe, or leaving from Santa Fe to Albuquerque. So you kind of get that foot traffic. Um, Obviously Santa Fe is a little bit bigger. Um, but when I compare that to Farmington, it's a little bit more. I mean, I don't want to say anything mean about Farmington, but it's a little bit, there's not a actual spot for a lot of entrepreneurs. Definitely the flea markets and those type of things, roadside vending type things, that's there, but having a centralized place is probably something I think that's limited in our area. But I did see that Farmington is putting up designated an area for farmers market. So definitely they've been doing the farmers market forever, but they're actually building a spot for them by the museum. So just imagine how many more doors will open with having such a venue. Um, don't get me wrong, there's also a lot of craft fairs locally. It they're kind of scattered throughout, but I mean, I think doing a craft fair, it takes a lot. It takes a lot for someone to put one of those on. You have to land a venue, hopefully you get enough vendors and whatnot. Um, so I think it's just having opportunities for entrepreneurs to sell or to even get their things highlighted anywhere. I think Gallup from I also I took participated in the what do they call it? It's like a boot camp for artisans in at UNM and Gallup. Um, I haven't really done a whole lot in Gallup, but I do know Gallup kind of has their downtown vending area for entrepreneurs as well outside of the flea markets. So if anything, it would be probably having venues or events for such entrepreneurs to highlight their pieces. And um, I think a lot of it happens in our area during the holidays. So that's the highlight of the season. I mean, I think in one weekend I saw there was like 5 different craft markets in November. So it's definitely a big thing in during the holidays, but entrepreneurs still have to exist for the rest of the year. So that would probably be another thing is trying to figure out how to have these things throughout the year. Um, of course, I think it's going to become daunting. You're going to keep seeing, like for me, Piece by Lane, we do silversmithing, we do, jewelry. There's only so much exposure you can give, and then folks are just going to be like, okay, we've seen that, we've seen that. So it's also going to have to be, that's where I kind of started working towards on an online presence. I was part of I don't remember, a round table or something that there's not a whole lot of presence of Native Americans having their own websites. And so that kind of was like, okay, that's probably something we should probably be working towards. So I think it's just you can build something definitely in your communities, but also you got to look to the grander scheme of things of maybe we need that online presence.
Yeah, so having that like physical space where people can come, where entrepreneurs and small businesses can sell on a regular basis, but then also having that online presence, especially in smaller towns and communities where you can reach people
Mhm.
outside of that community, I think is a good kind of like two-pronged or three-pronged approach. I think when you're building a business, you have to diversify the way that you bring in money, like in order to grow. So that's really good insight
But
and information.
also like even if you say diversify how you're going to do that, like for me, I do in-person markets, I do constant posting on social medias, and I have the Etsy store, and then of course I have the website. Interesting enough, I do more private sales by posting on social media than my actual website or Etsy. um I've launched Etsy, like I said, in 23. From my first launch to today, I've only had 3 sales on Etsy. Um, and then I launched the website this past summer. I've had no sales on as far as from the website. A majority of my stuff is sold by posting social media, or a lot of it has been through the market.
So I guess it depends on who your customer is too, right? Like who you're marketing towards, what platforms they're on, how they find you,
Yes.
all of that.
And then it also it's just a lot of promoting. It's a lot of sharing. It's a lot of sharing your story. Fortunately enough for me, like uh, my husband is a team roper. I myself used to be bell racer, so we still interact with that side of the world of going to rodeos and whatnot. So I spent we were able to go to Las Vegas in December for the World Series team roping finale, and just being there and talking to, I don't know, the lady sitting next to me that might have a really nice turquoise necklace or has a really big bracelet, or, I would just spark a conversation and like, where did you get your piece? Or do you know where you got it from? Or just having conversations with them. And that turned into, handing out a business card. It's so there's that's also another thing, self-promoting. So I do have actual physical business cards. I also carry around like this here. I have my cup that has the logo on it. My husband had a vest made for me that has Peace by Lane, so I would wear that, and then it would just spark conversation. I also carry around my electronic business card on Blink, so then all they do is scan it, and off they go. And I mean, we even met a gal from Texas just sharing a cab just to go watch the rodeo. And she was like, I mean, I had turquoise jewelry on, I pretty much always do. And she was asking questions like, well, I do make these as well. And she was like, what do you do? And so I was able to share our story. And she was like, do you have any socials? Yeah. She just scans the Blink and off she goes. And she's like, looking at things, and she's like, oh, I like this. And, so it's just a matter of promoting. And like I said, again, you have to be willing to step out that comfort zone, spark conversations, and see where that may go.
Believing in yourself and in your product and your business is definitely a huge factor. Like you are your biggest fan, and like your best marketer
Mhm.
is like just telling your story. Um, you've mentioned organizations like West that have helped you along your journey. Are there any other people or resources that you've tapped into that other um, entrepreneurs who might be listening can look into to help them with their business?
Oh, I definitely say my biggest resources has been Google. Um, Googling, I don't know, what's an LLC versus sole proprietor, at least get the basics. So here's a funny thing. Before I started on my entrepreneurial journey, I listened to tons and tons and tons of podcasts. I don't know what led me. I've never listened to it before, but I started listening to it, and there are so many resources on these podcasts. And one of the gals, Fallon Taylor, this prominent world champion barrel racer, she kind of talks a little bit about entrepreneurship. She's got her own businesses. She's ran with it. She's gotten pretty big. But one of the things that she had posted, I think was a part of her podcast, was before you start asking questions, before you try to approach someone and say, how do I start my business, or how do I figure this out, or whatever, educate yourself with just the basic stuff, meaning understand what a basic LLC is, what the difference is between sole proprietor, just the basic stuff. You don't have to go into all of that. Just at least understand the basic stuff. So when you go to ask questions, the person will have a better understanding of how to talk to you. So I always kept that in mind. And like I said, podcast has been one of my biggest resources. Definitely West. And then if you just kind of start looking for things and listening, there are resources. And I was I've been introduced to like a whole world of things here in Farmington. Of course, I know more local stuff. So definitely West, the Women's Business Center. And then within that same building, there are other resources available. I think there's like the Small Business Association. They also have their ways of doing things. The Enterprise Center at the San Juan College is another big resource. And then from there, I've learned about another organization called SCORE, which you can have a remote business consultation done with folks. And then again, they kind of guide you through the different steps. I definitely, UNM Rainforest is another one. Zach talks about how that organization is going out into the communities and helping folks. So if you can get hooked up there. Um, Kirtland, Kirtland, which is the neighboring community, they also have like a kind of a building entrepreneur classes. It's just a matter of finding them. What else do I have? Um, Social media is kind of been the biggest things that everyone is asking questions about. I'm probably being biased, but Wes actually has an awesome person that kind of teaches classes with social media, which is Alyssa Begay with Blue Horse Realty. So, it's just a matter of finding folks. There are quite a few people out there. And then I had another networking event. Oh my God, I forget his name, but he's also like a computer guy, an IT tech guy. So if you just network, you can meet people that dabble in IT, people that dabble in social media, people that love doing business planning and talking about goal setting. Um, the other resources that I use, probably specifically for me is definitely podcasting. um, I utilize FreshBooks for my accounting system, so that's a great resources and it's very easy to use. It's not as complicated. I didn't dive into QuickBooks because I've heard a lot of, it's a little bit more technical than you would want. So I've heard about Wave as well, but I use FreshBooks. So those are a conglomerate of resources that, I'm aware of.
You for sharing that. And I'll link all of those in the description so that people can like click on them as they're interested in them. Um, what are some of your goals like for the next 2 years, 5 years for your business? Like I want to hear what your, I guess, shorter term goals are and then like your bigger term vision is.
Oh gosh. That's shorter term goals, I think for me is probably finishing out like 2024. I'm reconciling all of my accounting, making sure I have, all the receipts covered. Have to get all of that in order to get everything set for, tax season, obviously. Um, and then I'd like to sit down and I can definitely make like a lot of little pieces for jewelry wise, but I'd like to sit down and maybe try to do a little bit more bigger pieces. Um, I've done two squash blossoms in the past 2 years, I think, or a year, 2 years. And I've been asked, do you do more squash blossoms? So as in regards to art projects and stuff like that, I kind of want to do a little bit more. A lot of folks ask me why sometimes I don't just have a lot of inventory, and that's because I don't really recreate the same thing twice. Everything is very, unique in their own way. So it's kind of hard for me to just I have inventory. Um, and then the other thing, like I said, is more short term is probably getting my website updated. It's with the holiday season and just trying to get ready for market, that was my focus, and just kind of getting social media on board with where I was going. That was just my focus, but now I kind of need to get back out to, the other outlets of the website and Etsy, and even that's time consuming. You have to take photos, you have to do what you need to do, write the product descriptions and get them posted. So that's a lot of time, a lot of time goes into that. Um, as you've mentioned, like I also have the Piece by Lane podcast. I haven't officially finished my year yet. I've actually just done, half of the year last year. So I would definitely like to bring on more artisans, entrepreneurs. I just kind of released the last one with Jareth Curley, who was an all-around rodeo cowgirl, but also she loves to sew. So I kind of want to keep building on that. I don't I don't necessarily get a lot of feedback in regards to, my podcasts. It's kind of other than, watching the stats on how many downloads have happened, or, where are the downloads happening from. Other than that, I don't have a lot of actual feedback, other than the folks that I do know that listen to it. Um, and I logged on and I saw a review saying, a lot of your stuff is very informative. Keep up the good work. I'm like, oh, that's like a positive. I haven't seen anything in regards to reviews and stuff. So I kind of want to keep building the podcast and see where that might go. I don't know if I want to try a different type of programming with that. I do know no matter what I decide to do, it can probably you can only get better at it. So that's kind of definitely, more short term type of things. Would like to do more selling outside of Farmington. I That was my goal last year, and I was able to go to Santa Fe at least for, one weekend. More long term, I definitely would like to have more established platform that I was speaking about. So hoping by the end of this year, I'll be able to do like a featured artist on my website or something. Um, and really just keep building it just to see where it'll go. I don't know. I mean, and some folks, try to thrive to, participating in like actual Santa Fe Indian Market or the Herd Museum. I maybe someday down the road I would like to do that, but it's really not on my radar. But it's just, it's one of those what if things, down the road. So that's kind of been my focus, is just sharing the stories of others, whether it be through their art or, their entrepreneurship. That kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like my way of probably helping other folks be able to get their story out. And that's kind of what I want to keep doing.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Um, like you started your business with all those what ifs, so hopefully your new what ifs will come into fruition in time. Um, my last question is, if there's an entrepreneur listening who's either just getting started or hasn't started yet, what's like a piece of advice or words of wisdom that you would share with them?
Oh, for the ones that are just getting started and feel like it's a dangling carrot or it's a thread that's on their shirt that they can't get rid of, but yet it's still nagging, just do it. And if you feel like for me, I was kind of nervous about the accounting side of things. There are folks that you can sit down with and kind of walk through it. So my biggest thing is just get started. I've had I've had a few ladies that are like, we want to do a podcast, but we're not sure, even with podcasting, I mean, and I'm like, why not? Just do it. It may work out, and if it doesn't, then if you still want to do it, you'll figure out a way to probably get it done. Same way with entrepreneurship, just do it. And if you get to that little door that's closed, it can always open. I mean, there's always if you decide to just run through and break through, then you're still going to open that door. Also, once you kind of make that leap into entrepreneurship, there are so many opportunities that can arise from just taking that one leap. I That's something that I've experienced, and it's also just deciding to take advantage of any opportunity that has come about. It has led to other doors. And so that's kind of another thing, is you never know where your entrepreneurship is going to go.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending some time with me this morning, sharing your story. Um, it's really much appreciated. And I think you're doing a lot of great things, especially for the Four Corners area. So thanks for coming on here. If people want to connect with you or look at any of your pieces, where can they find you?
Oh my goodness. Definitely we have a website, www.peacebylane.com, PIECED by lane.com. That's all one word. And then I have an Etsy store, which is also Peace by Lane. As far as reaching out, there's a way to contact me through my website as well. But as far as reaching out, definitely just like DM me, social medias. I'm pretty prominent in Instagram, which is all underneath Peace by Lane. That is linked to Facebook. So, like I said, I'm kind of one of those that kind of have things linked. So that's pretty much where you can find me. I do have an email address, which is just peacebylane@gmail.com. If you decide to reach out, or even if you just want to ask for more pictures or of something, a certain product. But definitely, I'm pretty big on Instagram.
Awesome. And I'll link all of those too so people can just click on them. But thank you so much, Rhonda. It
Yeah,
was
well, thank you. This is a little different for me. I'm in the hot seat. It's a whole different feeling. I was telling myself, I was like, are you really gonna have something to talk about? Do you have something to share? And it's from when you're the interviewer, it's a little bit easier. You can come up with the hot seat questions, and it makes the interviewee, really think about what they want to do. Like you said, what are your goals in 2 to 5 years? And you don't really think about those, but on the hindsight as an entrepreneur, you kind of have your to-do list. I want to do this month, I want to do this down the road. So, but being able to talk about it and put it out there, I'm also one of those people that believe in, manifesting what you want to do. So I have spoken all these things I might want to do. So it's out there, and it's just another way to start working towards it.
awesome. Well, I'm glad we were able to put you on the hot seat for once. Go check out her podcast as well, Peace by Lane, and to learn about other entrepreneurs and other artists too. So you can see her on the other side of the interview as well. But thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. It's good to see you again.
All right.